The Forbidden's Vote, the massive crystalline chamber of the Galactic Confederation Council, hummed with tension. Floating platforms held representatives from 47 different species, each one a testament to the diversity of intelligent life. Across the galaxy, the chamber's walls displayed star maps, trade routes, and diplomatic accords that had kept peace for over 3 centuries. But today, that peace was about to be shattered by a single devastating proposal. Ambassador Kresh stood on his platform, his scaled hide gleaming under the artificial suns that lit the chamber. His species, the Vorthik, had been warriors for millennia before joining the Confederation. Old habits died hard, and Kresh had never truly embraced the peaceful ideals of the Council. His yellow eyes swept across the assembly as he prepared to speak words that would change everything. "Fellow councilors," Kresh began, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never known defeat. "We have tolerated the existence of the Terran system for far too long. This primitive world sits at a crucial junction of 3 major trade routes. Its resources could fuel our expansion for generations. Yet we allow these barbarians to continue their destructive ways, polluting space with their crude technology and violent nature." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably on their platforms. The topic of Earth had been debated before, but never with such open hostility. Councilor Zara, representative of the peaceful Aquari, raised her webbed hand. Her species had evolved in the depths of ocean worlds, developing a deep understanding of patience and the consequences of rash action. "Ambassador Kresh, with respect, your proposal violates every principle our Confederation stands for. We do not invade worlds simply because they possess resources we desire." Kresh's lip curled, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "Councilor Zara, your species has always been too soft. These humans are not like us. They wage war constantly, destroy their own environment, and show no signs of evolving beyond their primitive state. They are a plague upon the galaxy. Have you forgotten the Terran incident?" Zara's voice carried a warning that made several councilors lean forward. 200 years ago, when the hegemony attempted to subjugate Earth, the chamber fell silent. The Terran incident was rarely spoken of, classified at the highest levels. Most knew only fragments of the story, whispers of a failed invasion that had cost the hegemony dearly. Kresh waved dismissively. Ancient history. The hegemony was overconfident and underprepared. We have learned from their mistakes. Our intelligence suggests the humans have barely advanced since then. They still use chemical propulsion, still fight with projectile weapons. It would be a simple matter to pacify them. Historian Veltar, one of the oldest members of the Council, spoke for the first time in decades. His species, the Eternal Ones, lived for thousands of years and possessed memories that spanned civilizations. "Young Kresh, you speak of things you do not understand. The Terran incident was not a failure of preparation. It was a revelation of something far more dangerous than advanced technology." "What revelation?" Kresh demanded. "That there are forces in the universe more powerful than plasma cannons and shield generators. The humans possess something we had forgotten existed, something that made them far more dangerous than any weapon they could build." "And what is that?" Kresh's patience was wearing thin. Beltar's ancient eyes seemed to look through time itself. "Desperation, and the terrifying creativity it births." The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The Confederation had grown comfortable in its power, complacent in its superiority. Kresh's faction had been building support for months, promising quick victories and vast resources. When the vote was called, it passed by a narrow margin dot. As the council dispersed, Zara approached Veltar. "Is it true? What really happened during the Terran incident?" The ancient being's expression was grave. "The hegemony sent a fleet of 5,000 ships to subjugate Earth. They expected an easy victory against a primitive species. Only 12 ships returned, and those that did spoke of horrors beyond imagination. Humans who turned simple tools into weapons of mass destruction. Children who built bombs from household items. Scientists who weaponized their own atmosphere. But surely our intelligence is correct. They remain primitive? Valtar shook his head slowly. That is what they want us to believe. The humans learned a valuable lesson that day. They discovered that in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations, their best defense was to appear weak while growing strong in secret. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Sarah Chun sat in her laboratory at the Planetary Defense Initiative, an organization that officially didn't exist. The lab was buried 3 miles beneath the Colorado mountains, hidden behind layers of classification and bureaucracy. Sarah was a xenobiologist, but unlike her colleagues, who searched for signs of alien life, she had been studying it for decades. The first contact had happened long ago, not with peaceful ambassadors, but with scouts and spies. Humanity had been watched, studied, and dismissed as harmless. But Sarah and her team had been watching back, learning, preparing. The samples they had gathered over the years revealed technologies beyond human understanding, but also weaknesses that could be exploited. Her computer chimed with an incoming message. The source was a deep space monitoring station, one of dozens hidden throughout the solar system. The message was brief but chilling. Multiple FTL signatures detected. Estimated fleet size, 3,000 vessels. ETA, 72 hours. Sarah's hands trembled as she activated the emergency protocols. Across the planet, hidden facilities came online. In underwater bases, mountain complexes, and orbital stations that appeared to be defunct satellites, humanity's true defensive network awakened. The species that the galaxy considered primitive had been preparing for this moment for 2 centuries. She thought of the aliens who had voted to invade Earth, confident in their superiority. They had made the same mistake as the hegemony, assuming that technological advancement was the only measure of a species' capabilities. They had never considered that humans might have other advantages: unpredictability, adaptability, and the willingness to do whatever was necessary to survive. The communication system crackled to life. Dr. Chun, this is General Morrison at NORAD. We're reading massive energy signatures beyond the heliopause. Is this what we've been preparing for? Sarah took a deep breath. Yes, General. Initiate Protocol Omega. It's time to show the galaxy what humans are really capable of. Across the world, similar conversations were taking place. In Tokyo, Professor Elena Vasquez activated the quantum communication network that would coordinate Earth's defense. In London, Captain James Morrison began mobilizing the Ghost Fleet, a collection of ships that had been built in secret and hidden throughout the solar system. In Moscow, former Special Forces operative Marcus Rivera received his orders to lead the ground-based resistance. The aliens approaching Earth believed they were launching a simple pacification mission against a primitive species. They had no idea they were about to encounter humanity's greatest strength, the ability to turn any situation, no matter how desperate, into an opportunity. Sarah stood at the observation deck of the facility, looking up at the stars. Somewhere, out there, a fleet of alien ships was approaching, their crews confident in their technological superiority. They would learn, as the hegemony had learned before them, that humans were not just another species to be conquered. She activated her personal communicator. This is Dr. Chun to all stations. The enemy believes we are primitive, defenseless. Let them maintain that belief until it's too late. Remember, we are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting to prove that intelligence, creativity, and determination can triumph over any technology. The first alien scouts entered Earth's solar system 3 hours ahead of schedule. Their advanced sensors detected the expected primitive technology: chemical rockets, radio communications, and basic satellite networks. What they didn't detect were the quantum sensors watching their every move, the cloaked ships shadowing their approach, and the massive defense grid that had been built into the very fabric of space around Earth. Admiral Thok, commander of the invasion fleet, reviewed the intelligence reports with satisfaction. These humans are even more primitive than we thought. Their military capabilities are laughable. We could conquer them with a single battle group. His aide, a young officer named Vex, seemed nervous. "Sir, shouldn't we be concerned about the Terran incident?" "The historical records suggest." "The historical records are propaganda," Thok interrupted. "The hegemony was weak, overconfident. We are the Confederation. We have learned from their mistakes." What Admiral Thok didn't know was that at that very moment, Sarah Chun was watching his flagship through quantum-enhanced telescopes. Every word he spoke was being recorded, analyzed, and transmitted to defense coordinators across the planet. The humans had been listening to alien communications for decades, had learned their languages, studied their tactics, and prepared countermeasures for every possible scenario. Asterisk. The invasion fleet moved into position, their ships forming the classical attack formation taught in military academies across the galaxy. It was a formation designed to overwhelm primitive defenses through sheer firepower and technological superiority. It was also a formation that human strategists had studied and learned to counter. Sarah watched the alien ships assume their attack positions and smiled grimly. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment, and that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one who appeared to be the weakest dot. She opened a communication channel to the surface. "All units, this is command. The enemy has taken the bait. They believe we are exactly what we appear to be, a primitive species with no hope of resistance. Maintain that illusion until I give the word." The alien fleet began its final approach to Earth, unaware that they were flying into a trap 200 years in the making. The galaxy's greatest mistake was about to be revealed. They had confused humanity's restraint with weakness, their secrecy with primitiveness, and their patience with inability. As the first alien ships crossed the inner solar system, Sarah activated the final phase of Protocol Omega. Across the planet and throughout the solar system, humanity's true defense network came online. The species that the galaxy had dismissed as primitive was about to demonstrate why they were the most dangerous force in the universe. The invasion of Earth was about to begin, but not in the way anyone expected. Asterisk. The awakening storm. The alien fleet descended upon Earth like a plague of metal locusts, their ships blotting out the sun as they assumed attack positions. Admiral Thok stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, watching the blue-green world below with the satisfaction of a predator about to claim its prey. His tactical display showed no significant defensive measures, no planetary shields, no fleet of defenders rushing to meet them. "Begin the planetary bombardment," Thok commanded. "Target their major population centers first. We'll break their spirit before we break their armies." But as the first wave of plasma cannons charged, something unexpected happened. The space around Earth suddenly came alive with energy signatures that shouldn't have existed. Hidden among the asteroid belt, camouflaged satellites and orbital platforms revealed themselves, unleashing a barrage of weapons that no primitive species should have possessed. The first salvo struck the Confederation fleet like a thunderbolt. Quantum-enhanced railguns, powered by miniaturized fusion reactors, tore through alien shields as if they were paper. Kinetic missiles, accelerated to near-light speed, punched through the hulls of battleships with devastating precision. In the first 30 seconds of combat, the Confederation lost over 200 vessels. "Impossible," Thok roared, his tactical display showing destruction on a scale he had never witnessed. How are they doing this? Our intelligence said they were primitive. On Earth, Sarah Chun stood in the command center of the Planetary Defense Initiative, watching the battle unfold on holographic displays. Around her, dozens of technicians coordinated the planet's defense network, their faces calm despite the magnitude of what they were facing. "First phase complete," reported Captain Morrison. "The enemy fleet is in disarray. They're trying to regroup, but their formation is broken." Sarah nodded grimly. "Activate the Ghost Fleet. It's time to show them what human ingenuity can really accomplish." Throughout the solar system, ships that had been hidden for decades began to decloak. They were unlike anything in the Confederation's databases, vessels that combined human engineering with alien technology in ways that should have been impossible. The Ghost Fleet had been built in secret, constructed in hidden shipyards, using materials and techniques that Earth had developed through centuries of careful study. Marcus Rivera sat in the command chair of the UNSF Retribution, one of the Ghost Fleet's most advanced vessels. A former Special Forces operative, he had been chosen to lead the fleet's assault wing because of his ability to think like a guerrilla fighter on a galactic scale. "All ships, this is Rivera," he broadcast to the Ghost Fleet. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting to prove that humans belong in this galaxy as equals, not subjects. Show them what we've learned from their own technology." The Ghost Fleet struck the alien formation like a swarm of angry hornets. The human ships were smaller than the alien vessels, but infinitely more maneuverable. They used tactics that no civilized species would consider: ramming attacks, suicide runs, and coordinated strikes that targeted not just ships, but the psychological weaknesses of their crews. Admiral Thok watched in horror as his supposedly superior fleet was torn apart by an enemy that fought with a savagery he had never encountered. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Our shields should be impenetrable." His science officer, a nervous creature named Zix, analyzed the incoming data with growing alarm. "Sir, they're using our own technology against us. Somehow, they've learned to manipulate quantum fields in ways that bypass our defenses. Their weapons are primitive in design, but enhanced with principles we don't understand." "That's impossible. How could a primitive species master quantum physics?" "Sir," Zix's voice was barely a whisper, "I don't think they're primitive at all. I think they've been hiding their true capabilities for centuries." Back on Earth, Professor Alina Vasquez monitored the battle from her laboratory beneath the Mexican desert. As the planet's leading expert on alien technology, she had spent decades reverse engineering captured devices and developing countermeasures. Her team had learned to think like their enemies, to understand not just their technology, but their psychology. "Sarah," she called through the quantum communication network, "their fleet is starting to adapt. They're modifying their shield frequencies to counter our weapons." Sarah's response was immediate. "Initiate Protocol Pandora. Show them what human creativity can really accomplish." Across the planet, a new wave of defenses came online. These were not weapons in any conventional sense, but devices that turned the very laws of physics into weapons. Gravity wells that trapped enemy ships, quantum fields that scrambled their electronics, and most terrifyingly, nanoweapons that could convert alien technology into human-controlled assets. The Confederation fleet watched in horror as their own ships began turning against them. Vessels that had been functioning perfectly moments before suddenly opened fire on their allies, their crews helpless as human-designed viruses took control of their systems. "This is madness," Thok screamed. "How can they control our ships? Our technology is centuries ahead of theirs." But even as he spoke, his own flagship began to shudder. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as human nano-weapons, invisible to alien sensors, began to infiltrate the ship's systems. The Dominator's own weapons turned inward, targeting critical systems with surgical precision. On the surface of Earth, the real battle was just beginning. Alien dropships that had managed to penetrate the orbital defenses found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to materialize from thin air. Human soldiers, equipped with powered armor that combined Earth engineering with alien technology, fought with a ferocity that shocked the invaders. Marcus Rivera's ground team struck an alien landing site near London with devastating efficiency. They moved like ghosts through the urban landscape, using the city itself as a weapon. Buildings became fortresses, subway tunnels became ambush points, and every human civilian was a potential intelligence gatherer. Remember, Marcus broadcast, to his team, we're not just soldiers. We're representatives of our entire species. Show them that humans are not prey. The alien ground forces, trained for conventional warfare, found themselves facing tactics that made no sense. Humans who appeared to be civilians suddenly revealed themselves as combatants. Children who should have been fleeing instead provided intelligence on alien movements. Even the elderly participated in the resistance, using their knowledge of local geography to guide human forces. Lieutenant Vex, the young officer who had questioned Admiral Thok earlier, found himself leading a ground assault on what should have been a simple human settlement. Instead, he encountered a nightmare of coordinated resistance that seemed to anticipate his every move. "Command, this is Ground Team 7, he reported, his voice shaking. "We're taking heavy casualties. The humans are using tactics we've never seen before. They're turning our own weapons against us, using our technology in ways that shouldn't be possible." "Impossible," came the reply from the orbiting fleet. "They're primitives. Use your superior firepower." But as Vex's team advanced, they discovered that superior firepower meant nothing against an enemy that could turn any object into a weapon. Household chemicals became explosives, children's toys became guidance systems for improvised missiles, and common kitchen utensils became components and devices that could disable alien armor. In the Confederation Council chambers, the debate that had begun with such confidence had devolved into panic. Real-time reports from the fleet painted a picture of disaster that none of them had imagined possible. Counselor Zara stood before the assembly, her earlier warnings now seeming prophetic. "I told you this would happen," she said quietly. "I warned you that humans were not what they appeared to be." Kresh, his earlier confidence shattered, stared at the tactical displays in disbelief. How? How can a primitive species be defeating our finest fleet? Historian Veltar rose slowly. From his platform, his ancient eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and inevitability. "Because they are not primitive, young Kresh. They are something far more dangerous. They are survivors who have learned to hide their strength until the moment they need it most." "But their technology is a facade," Veltar interrupted. "They have been studying us for centuries, learning our weaknesses, preparing for this day. While we grew complacent in our superiority, they grew stronger through necessity." The reports from Earth continued to pour in, each one more devastating than the last. The Human Defense Network was not just stopping the invasion. It was systematically dismantling the entire Confederation fleet. Ships that had been built to last for centuries were being destroyed or captured within hours. Sarah Chun watched the battle from her command center, her expression grim but determined. The plan that had taken 2 centuries to prepare was working perfectly, but she knew that victory would come at a terrible price. The galaxy would never again underestimate humanity, but it would also never again ignore them. "All units, this is command," she broadcast. "The enemy is beginning to withdraw. Pursue and harass, but do not let them escape entirely. We want survivors to spread the word of what they've encountered here." As the remnants of the Confederation fleet limped away from Earth, their crews, forever changed by what they had witnessed, Admiral Thok sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed the destruction of his once mighty armada. "What are they?" he whispered to himself. "What have we awakened?" The answer came from an unexpected source. A human transmission, broadcast on all frequencies, reached every surviving ship in the fleet. Sarah Chun's face appeared on their screens. Her expression calm, but her eyes filled with the fire of a species that had been pushed too far. "To the survivors of the Confederation fleet," she said, her voice carrying across the void between species. "You came here believing you were facing a primitive species. You were wrong. We are not primitive. We are prepared. We are not weak. We are patient. We are not alone. We are united." She paused, letting her words sink in. "For centuries, we have watched you, learned from you, prepared for this moment. We did not seek this conflict, but we did not fear it either. You have learned today that technological advancement is not the only measure of a species' worth. Creativity, adaptability, and determination can overcome any weapon you possess." Thok listened to the transmission with growing horror, finally understanding the magnitude of his mistake. "Return to your council," the human continued. "Tell them what you have learned here. Tell them that humanity does not seek war, but we will not accept subjugation. We offer one choice: coexistence as equals, or continued conflict until one of us is destroyed." As the transmission ended, the surviving alien ships began their long journey home, carrying with them the knowledge that the galaxy had a new apex predator. The species they had dismissed as primitive had revealed themselves to be something far more dangerous, a civilization that had learned to hide its strength while growing more powerful with each passing year. In the council chambers, the members sat in stunned silence as they absorbed the reports from Earth. The invasion that was supposed to be a simple pacification had become a disaster that would reshape the entire galaxy's understanding of power and survival. Counselor Zara spoke first, her voice carrying the weight of vindication. "Now you know," she said quietly. "Now you understand what the Terran incident really meant. Humans are not just another species to be conquered. They are the reminder that in this universe, survival belongs not to the strongest or the most advanced, but to those who are willing to do whatever it takes to protect what they love." The vote to end the war was unanimous. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would echo through the ages. Never underestimate a species that has learned to turn weakness into strength, patience into power, and desperation into victory. On Earth, Sarah Chun stood in her command center, watching the last of the alien ships disappear into the depths of space. The immediate threat was over, but she knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy, and there would be consequences for that revelation. But for the first time in centuries, those consequences would be faced by a species that was no longer hiding in the shadows. The humans had claimed their place in the galaxy, not through conquest, but through the demonstration of their most fundamental characteristic, their refusal to surrender in the face of impossible odds. The galaxy would never again make the mistake of calling humanity primitive. They had learned at terrible cost that the most dangerous species in the universe was the one that fought not just with weapons, but with the unlimited power of imagination unleashed by necessity.